Hi everybody, I'm Adam Steele, and this is Spectre Sound Studios. Fuck you, Glenn.
So hey everybody, how's it going? So we got Adam Steele from Hot Pole Studios on the show, and he's going to be doing a little series with us about mixing tips and Reaper and stuff like that. For the next 3 or 4 weeks, he's going to kind of be guesting on, I think, Mondays or Wednesdays or something like that. He asked if we couldn't, but hey, great. I think he's got a great show. He's got a lot of knowledge on Reaper, and I thought it would be really cool to bring to this audience here. So the subject for today's video is Spectral Peaks. And for those of us, including myself, what the fuck is that, Adam?
Well, I'll tell you. If you're really interested in Reaper and want to look at a super in-depth course, our Ultimate Reaper course is on a 72-hour flash sale. That's right, from now, for 3 days, you can get it for $97 instead of the price, which I think is double that. So check that out if you're really interested. Anyway, onwards. So today's Reaper tip is a cool thing called Spectral Peaks. Now, this project that I have in front of me has everything in drums, bass, guitars, vocals, and so on and so forth. And what we can see in front of us are the regular, normal-looking peaks. Now, peaks on these files can show us certain things. They can show us big up and down waves, which are low stuff. They can show us some very small little frequency changes, which are high. And we can see on a normal day, especially on something like drums, where there's a drum hit, where the volume is loud and where it isn't. But a wave like that, a wave peak, doesn't tell us that much more, especially when we're zoomed out like this and we want to see an overview of an entire section. Quite often you don't really want to be diving right into the waveform just to see exactly what's going on. I've already colorized a lot of these tracks, so they look rather pretty, but Spectral Peaks is something that's going to show you exactly what's going on by representing different frequencies with different colors. Now in Reaper, we're going to find this cool little feature under View, Peaks Display Settings, which is down here, and that opens up a tiny little menu. Before I even talk about Spectral Peaks, there are a couple of nice little features in here which I can talk about. So the display gain is something that I use quite a lot. It means that I can see these peaks bigger than they actually are, which means that if I've got a really quiet section that I'm trying to edit, like say these hi-hats, I can bump them up by a large amount so it looks like they're louder so I can see more detail, but that doesn't actually turn up the volume. Now another little trick that I like is there's a tiny little dot 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 here, and I can scale these peaks by the square root, which makes them stand out a bit more. Or if you're more used to video editing programs that do wave files this way, you can rectify the peaks and look at your wave files like this. Personally, not a big fan, but there it is. So next thing to look at is this display mode, and there's peaks, which is what we're using right now, spectral peaks, and spectrogram, which we're going to talk about another time. So if I click spectral peaks, that's going to take a second to build me a load of spectral peak files. If this was on by default, it wouldn't have to do this. It would make them as you're recording files or as you import them, so it wouldn't be taking up any of your time. Now, if I look at some of these WAV files as they come in, I can now see, and the bass is a really good example, I can see different colours on here. And the different colours, if you look at this panel right here, they tell me different frequencies. So this little section, when this goes away, is where there are blue bits. Those are the real sub bass. And if you zoom in, you can prove that there are these big peaks right there. You can see a really slow waveform. And then as you go up, you can see higher frequency content. Now, that's cool because it means I zoom out, and without even any track names or anything, I can see, well, that's probably the bass. I can see on like the kick drum, there's a lot of clicking and a lot of blue frequency, which means there's a lot of real low stuff going on here. Now, one thing that I find this really useful for is on vocals, I can see things like sibilance. So I'll play this track for you in a second. This is some real brutal metal. But you can see these vocals don't have much in the way of sibilance because they're not overly bright. But wait, what are these blue things? These really light blue things here are really, really low, like rumbles, knocks on a handheld vocal mic. And you'll hear why in a second. They've been filtered out in EQ, but this will sound brutal. Now that's absolutely brutals. What you can see quite often is there's still a lot of black on these wave files, and the black is where it's kind of struggling to pick out what it is. It thinks it's just noise. Now, back on this panel here, there is a slider for noise threshold, which I usually turn up quite a lot, which means I don't want to know if something's noise. I want to know what the most dominant frequency is. So again, just by doing that on, say, this room mics on the drums, I can see that the right-hand side has quite a lot of high-mid information going on. I can see low things happening here, which will be the drum hits. So let's just solo that, and I'll bet you these pink-red bits are da-da-da-da-da and drum hits, and the washy green bits are all cymbal. Yep, there you go. And if I was using this in an editing context, I can now see, if I didn't have markers, this section is very snare heavy. I can see that this section isn't very snare heavy at all. And you can very quickly spot problems. So there's a solo guitar here where I can see there are different sections on this solo guitar, and you can see where it's higher on certain notes. You can actually see the melody there, which is weird. Let's see if we can find ourselves a problem to tackle. There's a lot of that low end going on the vocal there. Let's listen to some absolutely brutal pig squeals. Absolutely brutal. The main vocal here. Let's see if we can find ourselves some sibilance that we had to work out. Yeah, so when I came to mixing this, and I'll just move it so you can see it, this section here just registers as noise, as does this, which on a very aggressive vocal is very clearly a sibilant. If they were really glowing that blue colour, which if I bring up peak display settings, this kind of light blue right here, that would indicate for us, especially on a vocal, a problem. That's either going to be this ultra low rumble right here, or it's going to be a sibilant, which means either I know I'm going to need a de-esser, or more importantly, I can look at this wave file and go, well, that's a sibilant. I could split this and I could take down the volume of a specific sibilant, or I could do that in automation, whichever way works for you. Now, another couple of things to notice here is there's variance, so I can really make this stand out and be brighter and more colourful if that works better for you. And also, if the colour scheme for these colours doesn't work for you, whether it's because of colour blindness or you just don't like where the colours are sat, you can just grab this and rotate it round so that each frequency is displayed quite differently. Or you can go to one of the edges and you can compress it or expand it so that each range covers a broader or more narrow frequency range. Of course, there are only so many colours in the rainbow, so it wraps back round. But that should show you, and you can even change the frequency ranges right here by changing the actual frequencies. So there's a lot you can do to customize this if it wasn't exactly what you needed in the first place. Hope this tip helps you. Back to Glenn. And if you thought that was cool, but you want to learn everything about Reaper, then the Ultimate Reaper course, shameless plug, is available on a 72-hour flash sale right now. Check one of the links in Glenn's description. It's right there, and it will help him out as well as me. So,
all right, that was Spectral Peaks on Reaper. If you guys want to know more, follow the links in the description below. You can check out Adam's channel, Hot Pulse Studios, and he's got all kinds of cool stuff. He does a lot of live streaming and mixing and that kind of stuff. Really cool channel, and we're always thrilled to have him on the show here. Adam, thanks so much for being a guest this week, and we hope to see you next week, man.
Thank you very much. I'll be here.